Hi, this is Joe Schneider, and this is the Organizational Behavior Final Presentation course at Northwood University. A little word of advance, it is a little bit random, but I think you guys will get the gist. So I'm going to start off with talking about chapter 12, which is the first chapter we talked about in class, and it talks about the Goldman Six leadership styles. There's coaching, commanding, pace setting, democratic, affiliative, and visionary. Um, in the past, I think I was democratic. I used to value a lot of opinions. I mean, I still do value opinions, but not as heavily. Um, right now, in the present, I think I'm affiliative, which is where I take into consideration people's feelings a lot. Um, I don't have a job right now, but that's what I think I am. And then the future is I could see myself as a visionary. And that's basically a visionary is just eyes on the future for organizations or even yourself. And then the other ones, such as coaching, which is just focus on future success. Commanding is do as I say now, and pace setting is type of follow me as I do it this way. Okay, moving on to chapter one. These are just a couple of details from the chapter. Like I said, I'm going to go quick through these. Um, behavior in times of change. So in the past, I thought I used to be more go with the flow. In the present, I realize I don't really like change that much, and I would like more control. And in the future, I would hope to be a pro at change management and understand that some change is good. And then some steps for change from the book were have a positive attitude, ask questions, listen to the answers, and be committed to success. I think the key there is listening to the answers because you can't be a good listener without, or you have to be a good listener to be a good communicator. And quality at work is another point in the chapter. And George H.W. Bush says quality must be a new style of working and thinking. And in the past, I was not quite quality centric. I kind of had the mindset of I'm getting paid either way. So if I do a bad job or a good job, I'm still getting paid. In the present, right now, I understand that efficiency and quality don't necessarily go hand in hand. And in the future, I look to contribute to an organization in a quality manner or where quality manner is top priority. Moving on to chapter two, some quick points. We talk about masculinity and femininity. Masculinity is assertiveness and materialism are valued, whereas femininity is relationships and concern for others are valued. And so men and women are both expected to assume assertive positions and nurturing positions. And in the past, I'm pretty sure I was pretty masculine. I basically wanted everything and anything. Like my Christmas list was super long, and I always thought that being the most strong and powerful is like the best person to be. Um, in the present, I'm still pretty masculine, but I don't really care as much about the material things I don't really want material things as much, and I would like to be more assertive and call the shots. And in the future, I hope to be balanced between the two, and take it by case is when I need to be assertive and when I need to be nurturing, and go from there. And then another important point that I thought in the chapter was uncertainty avoidance, which is just avoiding the conflict culture, or I'm sorry, a culture of avoiding conflict. And in the past, I definitely would have, as a leader, I would definitely avoid conflict, um, especially in high school football. In the present, I still avoid conflict. I have really changed from the past, and in the future, I still hope to avoid conflict. I just don't really like it that much, but I think I'll be able to know when people need to be called out. Chapter three talked about the big five personality traits. So starting off, we have extroversion, which is just social ability, like how extroverted you are. You can talk to people. You're outgoing. Then we have agreeableness, which is you're cooperative and you're warm. Conscientiousness means you're dependable and you're hardworking. If you have emotional stability, you're calm and self-confident. And finally, the last one is openness to experience, where you're curious and you have wide interests and you just want to try things. So for me, as a leader, I think in the past I was I was agreeable but not open to experience. I'm pretty shy, but um, in the present, I want to have high emotion or in the present, I think I have high emotional stability and agreeableness. And in the future, my goal would to be open, warm, conscientious, stable, and social. Basically, you just want to be a well-rounded person with all five personality traits that one can come out in one situation and another can come out in another situation and just be a really well-rounded person. Okay, moving on to chapter 4, source effect persuasion. Some characteristics of these are expertise, trustworthiness, and attractiveness, meaning if your boss comes up to you and I don't know, you think they're attractive or you can trust them, that's how they'll persuade you. And then when you're persuading, there's target characteristics. So in the book, it says low self-esteem people are more easily persuaded than high self-esteem people. So that's interesting. And then the message characteristics, uh, basically it means the message itself has uh, a lot of meaning behind it. So if you're demanding someone do something in the message, they might not take as kindly to it. And but if it's a nicely worded email or a text message, for example, um, then they'll take more kindly to it. The locus of control is another important point in the chapter. In external versus internal, and so the difference is external means like you think that you can't control anything and that fate is just fate, and internal means that you can control stuff. And um, I think it's an important distinction. As people get older, a lot of people I think tend to switch towards internal locus of control. So in the past, I was definitely external. I was just go with the flow, kind of the world happened as it happened, and then in the present, I'm internal and external. I understand that the fate is out of my control, but I had good football coaches that taught me that I can control my attitude and that I can change things that I want to change. And then the in the future, I want to be internal, also external. And I mean, you can't control if there's a hurricane or something, but internal is that I understand that I can control my own destiny. Chapter 5 was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The most basic need is your psychological needs, so food and shelter, and then moving up the chart, it'll go safety and security. Next is love needs, so um, social things like relationships, and then the fourth one is your esteem needs, your self-esteem, and then number 5 is self-actualization, which is they say it's very difficult to reach. Um, in my psychology class, we just talked about uh, Dwayne Dyer and how he reached self-actualization. Um, in the in the past, I definitely met my most basic needs, number 1 and 2. Didn't really think about love needs or relationships, anything like that. When I was younger. In the present, I've met most of my relationship needs, but I'm still working. Like I'm not married. I mean, I'm still looking for a wife, or first I'm looking for a girlfriend. Um, and then in the future, I hope to meet all 5. It would be cool to get to self actualization and have my Dwayne Dyer moment. I know it's difficult and that you just have to let it happen, but I definitely think it's possible. Chapter 6, learning and performance management. So the most important part of the chapter that I could relate to would be goal setting. And goal setting is important for obtaining desired results that guide and direct behavior. Um, in the past, I used to not, I never really wrote down my goals. I guess I didn't really have any besides to play college football, which I met that goal eventually. In the present, I now understand the importance of tracking goals. I still don't really write them down, but I know it's important. And in the future, I plan to use goals in my personal and professional life because they're a good indicator for tracking performance. So if you say, I'm going to do 50 push ups, I'm going to be able to do 50 push ups in a row by next week. I mean, that's a goal that's time oriented and it's smart, which is I think sustainable, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Chapter 7 was about stress and stress at work. I'm going to focus on more of the individual stress prevention. So in the book, they list that positive thinking, time management, leisure time, physical exercise, relaxation, diet, and opening up are all good outlets for stress and just preventing future stress. In the past, I would have a bad diet, but I would do a lot of leisure activities. So I don't think I was ever super stressed as a kid. In the present, I don't have much time for leisure activities, and I still have a poor diet, which is kind of bad. And then in the future, I hope to be more open and have a positive mindset when it comes to doing fun things and dieting and just eating healthy. And um, basically, I just want to use all of those topics listed above, like relaxation and time management, which ties into the last chapter for setting goals and going from there. Chapter 8, communication. Communicating and listening go hand in hand, like I said earlier. You can't be an effective communicator without being an effective listener. Listening is definitely an important key. And one of the interesting points I saw was communicative disease. And that's when you don't have heartfelt relationships, so you feel socially isolated and distant. And I can relate to this. In right now in college, sometimes I feel uh, socially distant from people and socially isolated, just not being with my family at all times when I'm at home. Um, in the past, I've had good childhood and good relationships. I wasn't really concerned. I don't think I felt socially isolated. In the future, I hope to get married one day and have relationships with heartfelt connections, and also relating it to being a leader. Um, if I get married, I want to be a good leader for my wife and um, have healthy communication. And here's a quote from the book. It says, healthy communication is at the core of personal integrity and managerial success. Moving on, in chapter 9, we have work teams and groups. And so group group behavior has some characteristics such as norms of behavior. So those are the standards of the group set by the group themselves or maybe even a leader. Um, Group cohesion is the glue that keeps the group together. Social loafing is the failure of a group member to contribute. And loss of individuality is when the group uh, makes people lose focus of who they are and often causes them to do crazy things like maybe even act violent. In the past, I was never usually a social loafer, but I've definitely lost my individuality. Like when you're with your baseball team, you just act different around your baseball team because you're in a group and like everyone's acting that way. When in reality, I would never act that way uh, outside of the baseball team. In the present, I sometimes I'm a social loafer, but I usually pull through in the end. Where like for my class projects, I won't do anything until the very last minute. So my teammates might be mad at me, but then at the end of the day, they're happy I got the job done. In the future, I will set the norms of behavior and nip any social loafers in the butt. I think I am one, or self-proclaimed one, and I definitely know what they look like when it happens. Okay, moving on to chapter 10, we have decision making. Group decision making is what I want to focus on. We have the advantages here are there's more knowledge and information to go around, makes sense. More acceptable because the members had a voice. That's also a good point, meaning people feel like since they had a voice, they're like, well, we made this decision, so we're going to roll with it. And there's also a better understanding of the decision. So everyone's there making the decision. Everyone should understand what the decision was. And then so some disadvantages are pressure within the group to conform and fit in. That's definitely a big thing, peer pressure. We have domination of the group by a member or a subgroup. So if there's someone who keeps taking control and doesn't let other people talk, they can often drive the decisions of the group. And the amount of time required because a group makes a decision more slowly than an individual. So a group decision can take quite a long time. I've never really had it be a problem in my life, but I guess I could see how it could be. And so in the past, I always thought group decisions were better. Um, in the present, I mean, I still think some group decisions are better, but I realize it's important to make decisions for myself. And in the future, I think it is important to gather groups input, but ultimately make decisions on what's best for myself. Like, for example, like when you vote for president, you're going to vote for someone who's best for you, not who's best for your neighbor. Chapter 11, we have power and political behavior. Power is interesting. It's the ability to influence another person. So it technically it can be learned. Some people have it naturally too. So types of power are reward power, which is like giving someone a reward for doing something, like salary increases, bonuses, or vacations. And then there's coercive power, which is basically forcing someone to do something, such as threatening uncomfortable situations, which you could kind of see it as like blackmail situations. And then there's legitimate power, which is like the president has legitimate power over me, and we both have a mutual agreement that he has more power than I do. Referent power is interpersonal attraction. So if you see someone who you want to be like if the CEO of the company walks in one day and you say, "Oh man, like I want to be like that. That'd be sweet." He has referent power over you, and you'll probably do exactly what he says. Uh, then finally, we have expert power, which is specialized knowledge or skills. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You're an expert at um, building a 1955 Chevy. Uh, so people who are looking for knowledge on that are going to come to you. In the past, I've always been susceptible to reward power, like going to the dentist. You could get McDonald's or Dairy Queen after or something. Um, in the present, I usually grant or I always grant my teachers expert and legitimate power. It's a mutual agreement. They know more and they have legitimate power over me. And in the future, I could say I have expert power in supply chain because I'll be a supply chain professional. And but like compared to someone in marketing, I'll be an expert. Moving on to chapter 13 because we did chapter 12 earlier in the slideshow. Um, Starts off with a quote from the book. It says estimates show that managers spend about 21% of their time or 1 day per week dealing with conflict. Um, that's a lot of conflict. If you really think about it, like 1 day per week sounds very stressful. So conflict management skills are a major predictor in managerial success. So if you can't manage it correctly, you're probably not going to be successful and you're probably not going to be a manager for very long. Managers must have high emotional intelligence, and if you don't know what emotional intelligence is, it's the power to control one's emotions and perceive emotions in others and adapt to the change and manage adversity. In the past, I think I had poor conflict management skills. I always avoided conflict. In the present, I still have poor conflict management skills, but I have much higher emotional intelligence, I think. And in the future, I want to develop my emotional intelligence so I can have more successful conflict management. So, chapter 14 is jobs and design of work. We have contemporary issues in the design of work. Telecommunicating sometimes creates social isolation. Alternative work patterns, such as flex time, sometimes make an employee work less harder, or and they could take advantage of it. And the third one is technology at work, where some people have really good skills and some older people's, like maybe some baby boomers, have really poor uh, skill develop or technology development skills. And then so skill development is needed for implementing new technology. In the past, I used to think that people with flexible time were not getting anything done, which is still sometimes true in some cases. In the present, I realize that flexibility is important. And in the future, I hope to implement job flexibility in my life because it can definitely help out in some certain ways. Chapter 15 is organizational design and structure. Some quick points here. Forces reshaping organizations are life cycles, globalization, information processing technology, and high performance work system. So basically, life cycles is the birth, life, and death of a company. Globalization sometimes reshapes a company because different laws in different countries. Information processing technology, new business information is coming out every day, all the time, and people always need to adapt, and sometimes it requires restructuring. And in the past, I didn't understand some of the influences of going global, but now I realize that laws play a huge influence. In the present, I know most things influence change, and in the future, I will use the forces to my advantage to make moves in the company before the forces take advantage of me. Moving on to chapter 16, we have organizational culture. So leaders reinforce the values that support the organizational culture through role modeling, teaching, and coaching. Employees look to the leaders to determine what the organization values. For example, if the leader is seen partying and drinking, then it must be okay for the employees to do it. Uh, in the past, I've always looked up to role models such as Matt Stafford because I thought like football was going to be my career path. In the present, now I look up to role models like Joe Rogan, who's not only a comedian but he's an entrepreneur, he's a business owner. And in the future, I will still have role models, but I hope to be a role model for the younger generation and be a strong leader and have a good organizational culture. Okay, almost done here. So chapter 17 is career management. You have to be in the business of selling yourself for yourself. Um, you're the person who's going to be in charge of your own career, and you got to be able to sell yourself at all times. So the keys to a successful career would be to be flexible, team oriented, energized by change, and tolerant of ambiguity. Career management requires having an ethical manner, standing by your values, and building a professional image of integrity. In the past, I haven't followed all of these rules. In the present, I want to try to follow all of the keys that I listed above, especially be energized by change. And in the future, I will develop higher ethical standards and values to hopefully lead a world-class organization successfully. Finally, the last chapter that we went over in class is chapter 18, Managing Change. And we talked about it a little bit earlier at the beginning of the presentation, but change management is a difficult concept to grasp. It can be huge or it can be small. There's a thing called the scope of change where it can be incremental, strategic, or transformational. Transformational is the biggest, where like it'll be like the whole company changes. Like for example, when a company gets bought out, or they go under or go out of business. The resistors to change from the book are fear of the unknown, fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of disruption, personality, politics, cultural values. I don't really think I have to explain most of those, but those are the resistors to change, and you must find the correct balance between these to implement change. In the past, I was open to change. In the present, I want more control of the unknown. I think that goes with just me being in college. There's a lot unknown right now. Like, where am I going to be in 5 years? And in the future, I want to be a master at change management and help organizations go through it by, helping them with the resistors to change and helping them cope with it. Uh, that's all I have for you guys. Thanks for listening to the presentation. I hope we get through this coronavirus thing soon so we can get back to class.